Hello everybody, welcome back to CX Today. I'm your host Floyd, technology journalist here, and in this episode, I'm really excited to be talking all about things dirty data. But before the IT and data managers reach for the X button, please do stick around because this isn't another dirty data lecture here. We're going to be talking about some good insights. So to do this, I'm joined by Brion Johnson to showcase how you can improve your data management, why taking a step back and organizing data before going all in on AI can be more beneficial in the long run, and much more. So welcome today, Brian. Really glad to have you on the platform today. How are you doing?
Thank you so much. Yes, I'm very excited to be here and share some learnings and some information from my own personal life and from technology perspective on all things related to information.
Yeah, cool, brilliant. So I feel like the best place to start with all these kind of conversations is to discuss really what does dirty data mean, and also what it means for the rollout of AI, because sometimes they can be seen as two separate things, but actually they're quite interlinked.
Yeah, absolutely. So I like to ride motorcycles, so I'll try to draw a parallel story here. So when I'm trying to plan a trip, there's always a number of things that come into play. So there's information about weather, there's information about roads, information about my health, information about my family, calendaring, where am I going, how much money am I spending, how long will it take? There's a whole bunch of data points that are considered when doing a trip. It doesn't even matter if it's just a couple hours or a very long time. All of those things are important to be safe and make it back safely, which is the goal, right? So when I think about data for an industry or a company or a solution, I try to think, what do we need to do to plan effectively and avoid dangerous situations? So, I always start with the weather. What is it doing? Is it raining? Is it windy? Is it icy? Is it dry? All of those things. And then I move on to the more tactical things that I'm in control of: my health, my time, my money, all of those things. But it's never an easy, oh, I just need to do this, I just need to get there decision. There's always a bunch of things involved. And to do that requires a multiple data set information. So if I don't know the weather, I got to go find it. If I don't know my budget, I need to go find it. How much time do I have? I need to look at the calendar. And if any one of those things are incorrect, I'm in for a bad day.
Yeah,
So, yeah.
definitely. So obviously, there's just tons of stuff to kind of like focus on, and then when you bring that into like an enterprise level, there's so many more moving parts amongst that. So I assume obviously that's why clean data is really important. So I think people often have the misconception that kind of AI is this, amazing tool. It's going to fix absolutely everything, and that it can kind of organize data. And obviously, there's some tools out there, but AI as a whole isn't kind of a data organizer. It really relies on this clean data. So, what should enterprises focus on to ensure their data is clean? Maybe going back to your analogy, how do you focus on all these different things to make sure that your motorcycle journeys safe and realistic? How do we exactly go about that?
Yeah, great question. So I like to think about information as who is the trusted source or what is the trusted source. So again, just drawing from my experience writing and riding around and trying to be safe. If I have a 25-year-old map, it's probably not going to be the most up to date and accurate system to use. So what is best if I can follow someone's route that they did yesterday, right? That would be ideal. Somebody that did the exact same thing I'm planning on doing, pre-planned. I know exactly how long it took. I know the route they take, download the coordinates, and I just simply follow. That's ideally the best, right? That's just one example. If we take weather, lots of weather applications out there, lots of weather things. What is your trusted source? Do you believe the Weather Channel? Do you believe the news? Do you believe the paper? What is it that you believe? So finding a trusted source, I think, is critical. And then I think the last sort of component about that is am I going to be safe in total? So, in other words, if um, I have a wife and three kids, and so, I want to make sure that I get home safely. So, is my bike in working order? Do I check my tires? Do I make sure I eat beforehand? Do I make sure I have my medical information? So, there's a lot of things that go in there. And I think for industries and companies that are looking to rely on any information, it needs to be vetted. It needs to be trusted. It needs to be confirmed by someone or something that authoritatively can say, yes, this is the correct information today. So I think timeliness, accuracy, and trust are really the most important components.
Yeah, definitely. And obviously, this advice is great for people that are starting out on the AI journey or are looking to kind of dabble into AI. But there's also, another growing kind of issue in some places. Those people that were kind of first out the blocks of implementing AI, and maybe they've hit the first roadblock where they realize that, their data isn't clean, the data isn't organized effectively. So they're also not going to get the return on investment that they want from the AI, both financially but also in terms of solving problems. So what advice would you have for those guys that maybe did it the wrong way around?
Yeah, so I'd like to think of that as like the 70-30 or even 80-20 rule. Tackle the biggest problems first, which are, when I think about the biggest problems, what is one of the call drivers? What is one of the support things that drive up our challenges, right? And usually these are customer facing, customer experience pressing issues. Are they warranty claims? Are they RMAs? Are they just usage? Is it education? Like, what is the top one or two things that are causing the problem? And if we can automate that, what would that look like? And so I like to start with the end in mind and then work backwards from there. So, for example, if it's a warranty claim, well, why is a warranty claim so challenging? Well, usually you need proof of some kind. You need a purchase receipt. You need to know where you got it from. Did you sign up for the extended warranty? All of those questions, which can be solved through digital means if the information can be given asynchronously and in a trusted way. Then perhaps we can do some automation. So, we can take each example as its own unique challenge, but the ones that we see in the industry are typically customer facing issues that seem complex at first, but perhaps with some automation, some asynchronous processes, we can then get the trusted, reliable, verified information and then do an automation task about that perhaps a human check. But I think, again, starting with the biggest problem first is the vast majority of the challenge, and then just taking it literally one step at a time. What's the first step? What's the second step? Guiding the both the end user and the company to a resolution. They are different paths, right? So we need to think not only about the external facing things, but the internal facing things that make it easy for us to do. And sometimes those systems are not in place, and so we need to think about creating those. I like to call them patches, right? The old
Hmm.
school, when you called zero, talk to an operator, we'll patch you through, right? How can we patch one thing to another to get to the process of being a linear process or linear solution that solves the problem holistically, not just one part at a time?
Yeah, definitely. And just to kind of build on that a little bit, obviously enterprises and especially a lot of like C-suite at those enterprises are, they're picking up the buzzword of agentic AI and they want it straight away. They can see how it can impact them day to day.
Hmm.
Um, so from a TechSee perspective, kind of how do you kind of bypass dirty data, when clients like, come on board with you guys?
Fantastic. Thank you for that prompt. So, we are big believers in not only omni-channel, so however the end user needs support, but also nodal or multifaceted. So the concept of being able to use voice, email, text, a picture, a video, combining all of that and synthesizing it into a simple question, and then providing discrete directions or suggestions to resolve that situation. So again, I'll go back to my sort of adventure motorcycling pathway of thinking. But for me, I'm not just thinking about myself. I'm thinking about the other people, who I'm going to visit, what I'm planning to do, what I'm planning to see, how am I organizing, all of those things. And so to think about the combination of all the things that matter. And so at TechSee, what we focus on is, of course, visual. But because we focus on agentic, we can do small tasks. We can provide that patchwork where we know who you are. We know what device you have a challenge with. We know what the problem is because the computer vision saw it. We know how to solve it because we have a trusted, verified secure source of information to say this is how we solve that problem, and then we can guide the user or field tech or person who's trying to solve the problem, either through voice and images, through a phone call, or through a session, or through an autonomous self-service method. But at the end of the day, if a user has an issue or a question or a problem, and we can use all those combinations in our cognitive engine to solve it, that's what we want to do.
Yeah, definitely. And obviously, we've been talking quite holistically about agentic AI and kind of dirty data here. But one thing about TechSee that I really, really love talking about every time I'm on a interview with you guys is the site aspect of this. So it'd be great if we could kind of cover off that in a bit more detail. Because obviously, it seems quite sci-fi, but for you guys, it's kind of day to day, right?
Yeah, it is, and it's a fantastic way to present information. So I'll provide some examples you probably have already used. Google Lens, right? You
Hmm.
can, instead of using a text search, you can take a picture of something and say, "Tell me what this is," or "Where can I buy this?" Or you can give it a prompt. So that's one facet. Amazon as well. You can take a picture. Where is it? What brand? What model? How much is it? All of those kinds of
Hmm.
things. What we can do for enterprises is provide that same kind of function, but on their specific solutions or problems. So, for example, if you're in telecom and you have a router or a Wi-Fi extender and you don't know anything about setting it up, we can provide discrete instructions with your images on how to set it up, plug it in correctly, make sure the right cables are connected, make sure it's even the right cable. And so we call that classification, basically. What is this thing? Once we know what it is, we can then take a look at what we call segments. And those
Hmm.
segments are lights, cables, connection points, dials, things a human can look at and say, "Oh, that's not quite right. We need to remedy that." And we can do that through our guided resolution to say, "It looks like that cable's not fully connected. Looks like it's the wrong cable. That light should be green. It's red right now. How do we solve that? Here are the three things that we need to do. And by the way, take a picture at each step, and we'll tell you if you're doing the right thing." So that's the easy way to explain visual component of this is just like Google Lens or Amazon Shopping. Take a picture, and we can guide your enterprise devices or objects or things through it. I like to say that we can combine the physical and digital realms. So, for example, if you're looking at a TV and there's an error code, we can solve that in a whole bunch of different ways. We can read the error code, go into your internal documentation, provide steps to resolution, or if it's a black screen, again, take a picture. Why is my screen black? We can prompt now with AI to provide some common things, even if we don't know the exact right solution
Hmm.
for that specific brand, that specific model. We can use trusted verified data to say these are the suggested next steps. And then at the end of the day, if you still need support, we have a method to transfer all of that information to a live support agent who is offering visual support, who can see all the steps that you have occurred to. So the benefit of that is, I'm sure you've all experienced this, yourself included. You call customer support, they say you have to do these 14 things. You're like, I've done that 3 times. They're like, well, I'm sorry, I need to have you go through them again, right? Rather than, wouldn't it be better? Is when you call the first time, they say, oh, we see that you've already tried to troubleshoot it. I see these pictures. I see these images. I can definitely tell that you gave it your best shot. I can actually tell from this picture that we need to do XYZ now. So thank you for going through that. Let's resolve it quickly. Move on with our support closure now.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And I think for the end user themselves, it's like really beneficial. Like I've used this analogy before, but my mum's a digital dinosaur, to put it politely. So the amount of time she tries to FaceTime me or text me and just and describe what the problem is. The analogy that I always use is one time the TV was on HDMI 1 and she wanted it on HDMI 2, but the cable wasn't even plugged in, and trying to explain that on text when she lives on the other side of the country was, practically impossible.
Right.
But a quick FaceTime call, show me the back of the TV, or I can see that you're not even on HDMI 2. It just kind of eases that kind of tension, I suppose, between the agent and the end user.
Yeah, the slogan we like to say is see the solution. We don't just see the problem, we can see the solution. Yes.
Yeah,
Fantastic.
definitely, definitely. So, what advice would you say for those enterprises that really they're on prem, maybe they've only got a handful of agents. Um, Kind of what advice would you have for these guys? Maybe if we can just talk about some of like the quicker benefits that people can see that kind of implement this technology, because there is some resistance still out there from people testing AI to actually fully rolling it out.
Yeah, I would say that focus on the big picture. So every company in the world is trying to save money, increase revenue, save support requests, and increase customer satisfaction, right? Like that. That's what every company in the world is trying to accomplish. And generally speaking, there's always one of those drivers that's more important for some reason than the other. So, for example, we have customers, their mandate from the executive team and the board is to simply increase customer satisfaction. So if that's the demand, what are practical ways that we can do that? So when we start again thinking about it from a big picture perspective, when there are issues, customers don't want to be put on hold. They don't want to have to do extra work. They want to get to the situation as quickly as possible and get a resolution as quickly as possible. So, mean time to resolution is the industry standard nomenclature. And so, we need to know how do we change that perspective. So, I've recently talked to a number of companies where it took 7 calls to fully close a ticket. With visual, it's one, period. And why is that? Well, because first you get an email. Then somebody has to respond, ask more questions. They get a second email. Then they do a phone call. Then they need some pictures, so they send some more emails. And they're back and forth. And then finally, once they get to an expert who can not only see what's going on, but then can offer a remedy, we need closure to that. We need to verify, we need to prove that that situation has been successfully closed. The only way that that can happen is with visual. Because if you think from the start to the end, if there is a visual component to the issue, we need to verify what the problem is, the steps to get there, and then the end result is the light is green, the cable's connected, the TV is on HDMI 1, whatever the resolution is. And so you can fully close that ticket. So it doesn't require a repeat. It doesn't require a second call. It doesn't require a second visit. Truck rolls are the worst, right?
Hmm.
Because the time it takes and the effort it takes to get there and do the 30-second thing you can do visually via remote methods is ideal, of course. That's not to say that field service should not exist. We absolutely work with industries and companies where their field service team is a source of revenue. They upsell, they cross sell, they add more, they provide that white glove service. There are a lot of people who say, I don't want to do anything, just come and fix it. Great, that's no problem. So what do we do in those situations? Well, what do you do when that field engineer needs support? Maybe
Hmm.
they're new. Maybe they don't know. Who do they call? How do they get the support they need? Our perspective is visual. Get a subject matter expert, a supervisor, someone that's been there, done that. They can take a look at it and give the guidance they need just as if they were a customer. So we can fill the gamut, the whole solution, whether it's internal or external, third party contractors, all of those situations with an expert available, to the point where we've worked with companies that an entire division was created specifically for visual support,
Oh wow.
which is a great thing to have because now you have a team of experts who don't need to travel, don't need to get in a truck, and they can resolve issues remotely and independently with junior people or people who may have less experience, but they're there to provide that support and that level of expertise.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you for offering some clarity on that because obviously it's one of the biggest talking points in the sector. But yeah, I could keep this conversation going on all day because I think it's amazing that like how visuals are really coming into play with this kind of thing. You know, nothing more than worse than a massive headache of having to type out loads of stuff as we've spoken about throughout the course. So I would just like to thank you for your time today, Brian, and also thank you for all of our listeners for and watchers for continued support on the channel. You can like, you can subscribe, and get notifications for all of our content. And you can also sign up to our newsletter too to have all of our written form content straight into your email inbox. So yeah, just like to thank you again for your time today, Brian.
Thank you.